Welcome to Mrs. Bowers Analyzes Poetry. This is the first episode, so we'll see how it goes. The first poem that we're going to analyze together using the typecast method is a poem called Mosquitoes, and it was written by Aimee, Nezhukumatathil. Got it right. So the first thing we do with the typecast is we look at the title. So the title is Mosquitoes. Don't know about you. They're not my favorite species of living being. I find them annoying. That's pretty much the best I can say. There's a lot of them. They usually come out on summer nights and ruin those. So that's my first impression of the title. Now I'm going to read the poem to you. Here we go. When my father wanted to point out galaxies of Andromeda or the Seven Sisters, I'd complain of the huzz of mosquitoes or of the yawning moon quiet in that slow summer air. All I wanted was to go inside into our cooled house and to watch TV or paint my nails. What does a 15-year-old girl know of patience? What did I know of the steady turn of whole moon valleys cresting into focus? Standing there in our driveway with him, I smacked my legs, my arms, my face while I waited for him to find whatever pinhole of light he wanted me to see. At night, when I washed my face, I'd find bursts of blood and dried bodies slapped into my skin. Complaints at breakfast about how I'd never do it again, how I have more homework now. Dad, how I can't go to school with bites all over my face anymore. Now I hardly ever say no. He has plans to go stargazing with his grandson, and for once, I don't protest. He has plans. I know one day he won't ask me, won't be there to show me the rings of Saturn glowing gold through the eyepiece. He won't be there to show me how the moons of Jupiter jump if you catch them on a clear night. I know one day I will look up into the night sky, searching, searching. I know the mosquitoes will still have their way with me, and my father won't hear me complain. I'm hoping that this reminds you a little bit of the poem Those Winter Sundays that we analyzed together, the one about the father and the son, where the father woke up super early in the morning to take care of the house and make sure everyone was okay. You should feel that connection. If you don't, maybe you will as we go. So the first thing we did was the title. Mosquitoes are annoying. They come out in the summer. That's pretty much what we get, right? They suck your blood. So now let's paraphrase. So I'm going to look at the first stanza. And the first stanza is, when my father wanted to point out galaxies or Andromeda or the Seven Sisters, I'd complain of the huzz of mosquitoes or of the yawning moon quiet in that slow summer air. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look up Andromeda and the Seven Sisters. I know they have something to do with Greek mythology. I know that they're names of galaxies or sets of stars, but that's all I know. So I looked up Andromeda, and what I found out was Andromeda's father was an Ethiopian king, and she was sacrificed because of something that happened with her mom, and it's a whole thing. But anyway, so it's a daughter and a father, so we can see the parallel there, right? The Seven Sisters, those are guiding stars that lots of people have used throughout history to determine where they are and chart a path. Also, the Seven Sisters in Greek mythology have to do with daughters again. So we have that repetition of the idea of daughters in the first section. She complains about the huzz of mosquitoes. Again, I think if we think about our own experiences with summer and wanting to play outside and getting attacked by mosquitoes, especially here in the Midwest, we get the feeling that no matter how beautiful the night sky is or how great the weather is, it always ends up being ruined by mosquitoes. So the second stanza, I'm going to paraphrase that. All I wanted was to go inside into our cooled house and watch TV or paint my nails. What does a 15-year-old girl know of patience? What did I know of the steady turn of whole moon valleys cresting into focus? So there's two different sets of images in this stanza that I want to talk about. So the first ones are pretty easy. Watching TV, painting our nails in an air-conditioned house. Even if you haven't done all three of those things, you know that this is something typical of a teenager or preteen. What isn't typical is a 15-year-old girl knowing patience. They say that patience is a virtue. What does that mean? That means that you really have to be calm and wait and not lose your mind as you are looking for something. And when you're looking for stars in the night sky, it might not always be the easiest thing to find. And so I am sure that this young girl is not enjoying this time with her dad. She's finding it annoying. What did I know of the steady turn of whole moon valleys cresting into focus? I guess the best paraphrase I can do with that part is, what does a 15-year-old girl or a 14 or a 13-year-old boy know about the universe around them? We've talked a lot about how self-focused we can be, and I think that's what this is hinting at. The next stanza that we were paraphrasing, standing there in our driveway with him, I smacked my legs, my arms, and my face while I waited for him to find whatever pinhole of light he wanted me to see. Again, we have very concrete images. We've all been outside, we've all smacked mosquitoes. We know that we're like beating ourselves up trying to get rid of them. That's her focus at the moment. Her dad's focus is these beautiful faraway stars, galaxies. She's not getting it. She's focused on the here and now. She's not focused on the bigger picture. At night, when I washed my face, I'd find bursts of blood and dried bodies slapped into my skin. Complaints at breakfast about how I'd never do it again, how I have more homework now, Dad, how I can't go to school with bites all over my face. Again, we're getting these very tangible images. Dried blood, bursts of blood, dried bodies slapped into my skin. It's pretty gross, really, when you think about it. But it's very real. And the idea of being worried about what people are going to think if you have mosquito bites all over you when you go to school. Again, this isn't what Dad is trying to get to, but this is what his daughter is focused on. Now I hardly ever say no. He has plans to go stargazing with his grandson, and for once, I don't protest. He has plans. I know one day he won't ask me. I'm going to jump ahead. The S in Tpcastt is shift. There's definitely a shift here where we have all of these things that she's complaining about, and then it says, now, so we've shifted to a different time. I hardly ever say no. Something has changed here. So in this section, this paraphrase, this stanza, she's talking about her father with probably her own child, and her dad saying, come on out with us and let's go look at the stars. And she says, I don't protest. He has plans. I know one day he won't ask me. So she realizes that this love of the stars and the galaxies is being passed on to her child, and she doesn't want to let go of it at that point. Next stanza. I know one day he won't ask me, won't be there to show me the rings of Saturn glowing gold through the eyepiece. He won't be there to show me how the moons of Jupiter jump if you catch them on a clear night. Again, I am not an astronomer, but the thing that I know about Saturn is that there are these rings that circle around it. And I think if we can think about her dad as Saturn, suddenly she wants to circle around him. She doesn't want to be separate from him. That would be a guess. Instead of talking about bodies and blood for mosquitoes, she's now talking about the rings of Saturn glowing gold through the eyepiece. Glowing gold. That's alliteration. Glowing, gold, both start with G. And so there's this smoothness, this softness that comes into those words. So there's definitely a shift in what she's focused on. The last stanza says, I know one day I will look up into the night sky, searching, searching. I know the mosquitoes will still have their way with me, and my father won't hear me complain. In this stanza, time has shifted again, and she is thinking about a time when her father is no longer with her. And so instead of giving in to the mosquitoes and focusing on what she doesn't like, she's focused on the fact that at some point her dad won't be there to hear her complain. And that's a different perspective than at the beginning of the poem. All right, so that is paraphrase. C is for connotation, denotation. That's where you use all of your literary devices, metaphor, simile, personification. I've kind of done some of that as we were paraphrasing. There's definitely a connection between this idea of the stars and the sky as a metaphor for their entire lives together. I'll let you play with the other things. There's allusions. So when we talk about Greek mythology, those are allusions. What does that allusion do to enhance the meaning? Well, knowing that Andromeda and the Seven Sisters are closely related to their parents definitely connects with what's going on with the person in the poem who is connecting to her father. Attitude or tone. If we look early in the poem, a lot of her words are negative. She's focused on standing in her driveway, smacking her legs in her face. She talks about her dad looking at some pinhole of light. There's a negative tone there, right? And then when it gets to a point in time where it's her own child that her father is taking out to show the stars instead of her, there's that softening that we talked about. So the alliteration of glowing gold, the idea that we're no longer talking about mosquitoes, but we're talking about Saturn and the rings that are circling it. There's the idea of her looking up into the night sky, searching, that repetition. Searching for what? Is she really searching for stars, or is she searching for the connection that she wished she would have had with her father? So that's attitude or tone. Shift, we already talked about, that's the S. T, let's go back to the title, Mosquitoes. So in the beginning, I said that mosquitoes were annoying, that we can't stand them and they bite us. And by the end, the mosquitoes are the tiny little nothings that don't really matter. What really matters is that galaxy, that world that she's created with her father. In terms of theme, I think we can again connect it back to those winter Sundays. If we talk about the idea of most of us don't realize how important those family connections are until it's too late. And so if there's a message in this, it's be grateful for those moments that we have together, for they won't last forever. So I hope that that helps you understand mosquitoes. I hope that it helps you understand how typecasting can break down the poem for you. If you have questions, as always, reach out to me. Take care.